was born with argino-succinic aciduria. He was diagnosed by the state of Connecticut newborn screening test at 7 days old, and due to that test, his life was saved. His most prominent UCD symptom was that he did not eat by mouth. So he had a G tube starting at 3 months old, and to this day, he still eats that way. He remained fairly metabolically stable for most of his early childhood. And that was fairly simple to keep him metabolically stable because of the G tube. And he did not start to have issues until he hit early puberty. And then there were no rhyme or reasons to his ammonia episodes. His liver became 70% enlarged, and I was completely unable to keep him metabolically stable. So I started to research liver transplants, and he was transplanted at 13 days old. I'm sorry, 13 years old, and he is doing amazingly well, and he is now 16. Caregiving journey is definitely the road less traveled and not what you expect when someone hands you your newborn baby. And it is absolutely a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week journey. The symptoms of a UCD are often invisible. They can change from one episode to another. So one day the symptom could be a headache, and that could be the cause of an ammonia episode. And then the next day, your child can have a headache and be completely fine and not be having an ammonia episode. So the symptoms are completely different, and sometimes they won't present themselves until it's too late. So you just don't know if the symptoms are there until your child is already cognitively impaired and potentially slipping into a coma. And so that's what I mean by saying that they're sometimes invisible until it's almost too late. I once read something that someone was describing another rare disease, and it perfectly depicted caring for an individual with a UCD. And I will always remember it because I read this when my son was very young. And she had described it as, it's like holding a heart in your hand every single second of every single day, and you are in charge of beating that heart. And you can never put that heart down, and you can never stop beating it. And that really, for me, hit home because that is what it was like caring for my son. I could never look away. I could never miss a moment, and I could never stop worrying, because if you look away for one moment, you might miss that invisible symptom, and your child might have an ammonia attack. And that could be the day that you miss that symptom, and that could be the day that that episode is fatal. And I feel that that is really what that sums up a caregiver journey of a UCD parent. There are a lot of difficulties that I think on a day-to-day basis, your child looks completely healthy, and a lot of people, because they don't see the illness, they typically don't believe that your child has one. So that is one of the biggest difficulties of caring for a child with a rare disease, specifically with a urea cycle disorder. So that can be a very lonely road, and you often become your child's nurse, doctor, dietitian. You have to become your child's biggest advocate. I think that that is the first thing that I would tell someone that is a new caregiver, that you're going to have to be prepared to take on all these roles, that you are going to not only be looked upon to be proactive, but that you're also going to be looked upon to take care of medical, quality of life, determine when situations become a crisis, that you have to be prepared for that while also advocating for your child, because many of these doctors have never cared for or even seen a child with this particular rare disease. Um, and what I didn't believe when people told me right from the beginning was that you will get to know your child better than anyone else. And if you feel that something isn't right, then speak up and advocate for your child. Trust your instinct and make sure that the one thing that you do is fight for your child. Um, and the hardest thing is you will lose yourself in the caregiver role, and to remember to take time for yourself, even if you have to force yourself to. Rely on those that actually do offer help, because if you are being offered help, then take it and remember to take time for yourself, because you do very much get lost in the caregiver role. My journey started so long ago that Facebook didn't even exist. It actually was just coming out the month that my son was born, which, when you think back to that, you can't even imagine life without Facebook. And so NUCDF was truly my lifeline. Cindy was one of the very first people that I spoke to after my son was diagnosed. And so she actually connected us with other people that had children with UCDs. So now I think the world has opened up in regards to social media and being able to connect. And even now, to this day, before Mitchell got transplanted, I find that that is such a resource. And even after 13 years of having a son that had this condition, there were still days where I really relied on that network of people, where whether it was to ask a medical question or it was just that I had a hard day and I really needed that network so much, just mentally, to say, my son had been doing so well, and now all of a sudden he's having these ammonia episodes, and I don't know really how to handle this. And just the community would really kind of just wrap their arms around everyone when that happens. I just think that some people are afraid to reach out. Some people aren't ready yet. One of the people in that group wasn't ready to reach out until their child was like about a year old. And then when she did, she was like, oh my goodness, I wish I had done this sooner. So, some people aren't ready, but as long as the resources are there, I found that, like I said, the social media platform wasn't there for us at that point. We literally had to pick up the phone and call in UCDF like the old fashioned way. And it still is something that I really rely on. And now my role is changing as I am one of the older people in the group, and my son is older. I kind of have taken on more of the role of Mitchell has blazed the trail now. Mitchell is the one who has, was born, his life was saved by newborn screening. He was pretty metabolically stable. He's been in the study his whole life. He was transplanted. He's doing well. He doesn't have any cognitive damage, really. So, now I'm one of those parents where when a child's born with ASA and they're saying, should I have my child transplanted? What's going to happen, when they hit puberty, or what's going to happen? I've now kind of taken on that role as I can now tell them this is my experience. And wow, I really wish I had gotten my son transplanted, earlier on, so that he didn't have to experience all this when he was 13 years old with an enlarged liver and, a year of pain and all these ammonia episodes that he shouldn't have had if I had gotten him transplanted earlier. So I kind of feel like now I have the opportunity to, through whatever platform, social media and UCDF, videos like this, where I can say, this is my experience of 16 years now, and I hopefully can help all these parents, through all these different avenues to say, hopefully this will help your child now.